Hello and welcome back to the Little Craft House. Actually, I should say I'm back at the Little Craft House. I've taken a couple of weeks off and I'll explain that to you more afterwards as we get into today's tutorial. I've taken a couple of weeks off posting. So now I'm getting back into doing the tutorials, and the best way for me to find some inspiration is to do some colour mixing. So I've got an idea of what I want to do, and I've got a bit of a colour palette idea. I did already previously mix up some of these colours just in really small form to get the recipes. Now I'm going to make some more, so I'm going to share the recipes with you. So starting off, I wanted to use all mainly souffle clays, but there's one colour that I did need some Premo for. So I've got my white, which can be either Premo or Souffle. Then I've got that Souffle Fiji up there. The Premo was Peacock Pearl. Then I've got Souffle Mandarin, and I've got a tiny little bit left there of the Souffle Canary. So I'm hoping that that is going to be enough to get me through. I might have a little bit more hiding somewhere. I just have to go and find it. I've also got the Souffle Raspberry here. That's a lovely colour. I love that one so much. Also got some Souffle Turnip. Same deal with that one. Hopefully that's enough to get me through. I'm currently trying to just use up everything I have without going and opening some new packs. Okay, anyway, on with the recipe. So I'm just going to start cutting up some pieces of the polymer clay, going to get them conditioned and then rolled out. So I have done quite a few colour mixing tutorials before. I tend to go over the same things in the beginning just to explain what to do in case you haven't done a recipe before. So if you have done recipes before, feel free to skip this part. But if you haven't done a colour recipe before, I'm going to explain it to you now what I like to do. So as I just mentioned, I'm going to cut off a chunk of each colour and just get it conditioned enough to make it nice and soft and movable. Don't fuss too much at getting it too over conditioned, because as we are mixing up our clays to make the new colour, they're obviously going to be rolled and folded and rolled and folded and rolled quite a few times. So that will also condition the clay. But we just need to make sure that it isn't crumbly for whilst we cut out our portions. So talking about portions, we need to make sure that all our portions are the same and consistent. So I always like to start off my conditioning process with the hand roller. I find if you go and put your clay straight into the pasta machine, whilst it's firm and just cut straight off the block, you're putting pressure on the gears of your pasta machine, which is going to wear it out faster. Sometimes it's also your clay can be a bit crumbly, and so if you chuck it through just as is, as you start to wind the handle and the rollers, your clay is just going to crumble, get stuck in the machine, make a big mess, and you're going to have to deal with that later. So the easiest way to avoid that is just to get your acrylic hand roller and just roll and fold a few times until, see how that broke then? That's not conditioned. So we want to keep giving it a roll and fold until it just folds over nicely and smoothly, and isn't crumbling or breaking, and then that's enough to then be able to put it through the pasta machine. So this piece of clay here is quite crumbly. See how it's all sort of cracking as I'm rolling it. Just means that I just need to give it a bit extra work. If you find that your clay is extra crumbly, I do find that adding a bit of body warmth will help, because it kind of helps to soften the clay. So from that little chunk that I had originally cut, I would cut it into a few pieces, and then I'd put it in a little plastic baggie or wrap it back up in the plastic that it came in if there was no other clay left in the packet. And then I would just either sit on it, or I would hold it in my hands for a little bit, just trying to add that body warmth without heating it too much, because if you're going to heat it too much, it's going to start cooking. I'm quite a cold-blooded person, so my hands aren't warm enough to warm it up. What I will do is sometimes get one of those little wheat packs that you can warm up in the microwave, and I'll warm that up, and then I'll just sit that on top of the clays within that. Like, they have to have something protecting them, because otherwise it will make them dirty. But I'll also do that to add that little bit of warmth, which will help to soften the clay and then get it a little bit more workable. So that's my little top tip for that. Right, now all these are conditioned, I'm popping them through the pasta machine on the thickest setting, and that is going to get all of our portions at the same thickness. That teal pearl there looks like it's got a big line through it. I think that's just a bit of a crack. I don't think that's a hair or anything. Yeah, so all the same thickness. Then we now need to cut out our portions so that they are all the same size. So I'm going to grab my container of shape cutters. Now I used to have these all hanging up nice and displayed nicely and in their types. I have moved craft rooms, so everything came off my board and it's gone into some tubs and I'm yet to reorganize. So I'm just going to sort through a little bit and I'm going to find some shapes. I love that little llama shape, but I can't use him. I need something that's symmetrical because we're going to do half, and I don't think we've got any quarter portions today, but definitely halves. So even that irregular circle, it's not going to make it even. So I need to find a symmetrical shape. Circles and squares work well, but I might see if I've got something a little bit more fun to work with. You know what? I think I might just go with this triangular shape. It's not a circle, it's not a square. It's a little bit different, but it's going to make it easier to cut out those half portions. Now, I actually did change the cutter to a different triangle, but yes, this is the one we're going to use. So I'm going to start cutting out a whole bunch of portions. I need lots of white for today's recipes. So obviously I'm going to cut out as many as I can. I'm going to scrunch the clay back up, whack it back through the pasta machine so it's at the same thickness again, and then cut out some more. Right, so whilst I do this, I am going to tell you about what has been going on in my life and with the little craft house. So if you followed me for a while, you'll know that we had a physical store located here in Perth. We no longer have that store. We had to close it, unfortunately. Just with cost of living nowadays and so many other external factors, it just became impossible for us to still run our online, our in-person store. So now we just have our online store. So closing that store was an absolutely massive job. The store was huge. There was so many supplies and we've had to bring it all down to just being really basic, minimal again, how we first started, and now we operate out of our home. So everything has been in an absolute shambles. I've had to move my craft room. I'm still in the process of trying to get everything organized. So that is why I haven't been posting quite as much as I did previously. But now I'm starting to get myself back into a routine. Now we've handed the keys back and just starting to get ourselves organized so I can get back to doing some tutorials. So if you want me to do like a full sort of dedicated blog post, I suppose, about the closing of our store, I can definitely chat through that and tell you guys more and show you some photos and stuff. Otherwise, just head over onto my Instagram account. I did delete some of the posts off, but there's some posts up there showing what the store used to look like and what we had before we've moved it all home. But anyway, on to bigger and better things anyway. That's the way I'm looking at it. It was time for a change. So just back to how we originally started with being a smaller, just online business. And I'm hoping that without having the store, it now means that my time is definitely freed up a little bit more and I can get on with doing more tutorials. So I'm hoping to branch out a little bit as well. So doing the polymer clay tutorials, but also a bunch of beading tutorials too, because beading's coming back. Something I used to do a lot when I was teenager and in my early 20s. I used to do a lot of beading with glass beads and things, even made my wedding jewellery. And I used to do little market stalls and things back then with my jewellery too. So it's kind of coming back into fashion again now, so becoming a bit more popular. So I thought I might branch out, do some more beading tutorials, also with the cricket and vinyl. I know I've been asked quite a few times about tutorials for those as well. So I'll still keep doing all the polymer clay tutorials, but I'm going to try and add in more of those as well along the way. So If you have any requests for tutorials, please let me know, because I always love to do what people request, and I want to make what you want to watch. So yeah, let me know. So you can see the difference here with this teal pearl, how it's not as well conditioned. It's actually being really tough for me to cut out those pieces. But as I mentioned before, it's going to condition more as we do the mixing, so I'm not too fussed about it. But if I was making them into earrings and that was a piece I was cutting out for earrings, it would be very difficult, and it should definitely be conditioned more. You'll see the difference between that one and then when I cut out, say, this one here, it just cuts out so much easier and also cleaner as well. You find your cuts when it's conditioned to be much cleaner, because it's not ripping at the clay like when it's unconditioned. When I do colour mixing tutorials, I quite often get asked why I mix new colours and not just use packet colours. And really, I just like to play around. It kind of gets me inspired, gets me in the mood to making things, and just having a different colour other than what's just a generic in the packet makes my pieces a little bit more unique and special as well, because they're not just the stock standard colours. That's why I like colour mixing anyway. I just find it really therapeutic, and yeah, just something that I enjoy doing. Okay, back to it. Here's all our colour pieces. They are all ready to go. As a colour palette by themselves, they actually look really good as well. But yeah, we're just going to make some new colours, and hopefully that'll give us some inspiration for the project that I'm going to share with you next week. So, going to pop them all to the side and just make some room on my tile. I like to work on a ceramic tile. This one's actually a matte finish. Most people will work on a gloss finish. I don't bake on my tiles. I just use them for rolling on and doing my work on. They're easy to clean, and yeah, it's a good surface. So anyway, this recipe is for a really pretty pale yellow. So we are going to mix together the 4 portions of white with the 1 portion of that canary yellow, and we're just going to mix it together. So I'm just going to do this one with the roller, my acrylic roller. So just rolling it out, folding it and rolling again. Always trying to keep the seam of where I fold to the side so that we're kind of pushing air out and not getting it stuck and trapped within. The problem with when you get the air trapped inside of the clay is that it's then a bubble, and so then you've got a bubble inside your clay. Then if you go and cut out your pieces and bake them, the bubble tends to surface and then you get lumpy clay. So we want to avoid that. So that's why we are going to just put that seam line on the edge and roll those bubbles out. Same as if you're using the pasta machine. Always make sure that as you're folding and putting it through the machine that you've got the seams on the edges. Now I'm doing a couple of multiple folds here, but again, making sure those lines are on the edge. The thinner you go when you're rolling, it's going to help it to break down those colours more faster as well. So it's a little bit harder to go thin with the roller because sometimes it tears and whatnot, but it really doesn't matter too much because we're just folding it all back together again. But you can definitely see those colours starting to come through now. So it's a beautiful buttery yellow colour, really lovely. So I'll just do a couple more of the roll and folds just to make sure that the colour is all mixed through nicely. You can see still there's some white there, so I definitely want to make sure that that's all blended in nicely. The marble effect is nice, and sometimes when I'm colour mixing I will stop because I've created a beautiful marble effect, and I'll just stop and use that colour instead and then go back on with making the proper colour later. It's great when little bits of inspiration hit like that. You'll also notice sometimes, like I did that sort of roll before, sometimes I'll do multiple folds where I'm folding those end pieces into the center, and that just helps to blend in the edges because sometimes they miss out on being blended in nicely. Right, so that's looking good. I think that will be enough of mixing this one. So that is our first colour done. We're going to record the recipe now though, so that I've got it for future use, so that I remember. So I found a little flower cutter. I thought this would be really cute to record the colours with. Going to cut out a sample of each one of the colours that we do. I'm just blending that rest of those scraps back together there. I'm going to get my little recipe cards as well. So these recipe cards I do sell on our website, and I am working on a digital version as well, so that if you're not within Australia, the digital version, hopefully I can work out how to finish it off and have them available at some point. Yeah, it's got space for me to be able to stick the sample on once it's all baked up. For now, whilst it's still tacky and raw, I'm just going to place it on the top so that I know which one it goes with, and I'm just going to record down the recipe. So I like to just write a little S for souffle or P for Premo, so that I know the type and then just the colour. So that is the recipe for our first one. Okay, moving on to our second colour. So we are going to go 3 peacock pearl with 1 turnip. So the peacock pearl doesn't show up as nicely on screen as what it is in real life, but if you've ever seen it in real life before, it's a nice tealy colour. Looks a bit more blue on screen here, and it has a bit of a shimmer through it because it is from the pearl family. So depending on what you mix it with, it can have that pearlized effect. It will depend on how much pearl colouring you're mixing in to a standard colour though, because obviously it's going to dilute it a little bit. So this colour today will end up with a little bit of a shimmer because there is more of the teal than there is of the turnip. So yeah. Let's just get that mixing. And like I said in that previous one, sometimes I get that really nice marble effect. This one here has got a bit of a nice marble effect happening, and it's taking a little bit longer to get that colours broken down and mixed through. I don't know if it's because that teal pearl wasn't conditioned as well. That could possibly have something to do with it, but it is just taking that little bit longer for the colours to break down and blend together. So I suppose when this happens, it's good to get it rolled really thin. Like I mentioned before, the thinner you can get it, the quicker it kind of breaks it down and makes it easier to mix the colours. And the ends on this one's looking a little bit unmixed as well. So we need to make sure we show them some love, get them all folded in so that the colour blend is even. Stuck on the roller there, so chuck that in the middle, and then I'll just do a multi-fold, so get those tatty ends folded into the center and just keep on rolling. So this one did take me quite a bit to get it going. I probably should have used the pasta machine for this one. It would have made it quicker, just because yeah, I find it is quicker when I'm using the pasta machine. Anyway, just popped it into 3 times speed so you can just see me working on it super fast. But you can see that colour that's come through there. It's a beautiful navy blue colour. It has just that slight shimmer to it. Not a huge amount, but enough that's definitely a little bit noticeable. And especially when it's going to be paired with the more matte colours that are the ones that are joined in with, mixed up with the souffles. Those ones are more a matte finish, but the Premo's more of a glossy finish. So yeah, that one's a really nice one. Just going to roll a little bit of it a little bit thinner. I don't need big chunky samples. I can make the samples quite thin. That doesn't really matter. Just cut that one out. Okay, so I'll pop that little sample on top, and then we'll just record down the recipe for that one too. So it is 3 portions of peacock pearl, which is the Premo, and then 1 portion of turnip, which is souffle. I'm just going to give my table a quick wipe. So I just thought I would show you what I use. I really like using these alcohol wipes. They're 75% alcohol, and they're really good for cleaning off your polymer clay messes and cleaning your hands and the tools and everything. So I use these quite often as cleanup, and because it's the 75% alcohol, it actually dries really quickly. I used to use baby wipes, but things would stay wet for ages, whereas the alcohol dries up pretty quick, so I can get on with making. But yeah, just giving it a wipe down because we don't want any colour transfer. Okay, on with our next colour. So this one is going to use up 5 portions of white, 1 portion of raspberry, and 1 portion of turnip. So I'm just going to stack these together and give them a little roll with the roller first. I am going to use the pasta machine for this one, so I will show you that in just a sec. But because I'm putting them through the pasta machine, I don't want to put it through whilst it's too thick, so that's why I'm just giving it a slight roll. Look at that, that's quite a pretty little pattern where it's just torn in half there. Oh, I might bank that idea for an idea another day. That's pretty cool. Anyway, not doing ideas today, I am doing colour mixes. So once I've just brought that down so that it's not too thick, I'm going to bring it over to the pasta machine. I've just put it on the thickest setting at the moment to start with, and then I can bring it down to a thinner setting afterwards. Again, we just don't want to put too much stress on those gears, so it's always best to start on the thicker setting. And you can see some of that colour starting to come through now. This colour is actually reminding me a lot of the Fimo Neon Purple. Very similar looking, I think. I might have to compare it afterwards because it does look very similar to that, but without being the actual neon effect. But yeah, there we go. That's a really nice purple colour. I'm just going to fold that again because it didn't look quite mixed enough in the back there. All right, that's much better. So again, I'm just going to roll out a really thin bit at the end to cut my sample out of. And then pop the main colour to the side. And we'll pop that on there and then record the recipe. I like to keep all of my recipes all in a container all together so that I can just sort of flick through and find a particular colour if I'm looking for it. Usually I have colours in mind, so I'll go through and have a look and see if I've got a recipe for that particular colour, and if I don't, then I try and make up some new ones. Right, so the recipe was 5 of the white, 1 raspberry and 1 turnip. So these are the 3 colours that we've done so far, and they actually look really good just together as is. Yeah, I'm really looking forward to this colour palette, and as I mentioned earlier, I've definitely got an idea for next week in mind. So hopefully it all comes together properly, and then I can share that with you next week. But anyway, back on to today's recipe. Oh look, I'm just going to make a pretty little floral shape with my with my portions because, you know, why not? It's fun. This is another little idea. I could do little patterns like this on polymer clay. That would make a really fun little design. I've got smaller versions. I might have to do that. Like a bit of a mandala effect. Okay, yeah, again, definitely banking that idea. Anyway, didn't say what they were. Right, I've got 4 white, I've got 4 Fiji, and I've got 1 latte. Going to give these a roll and then again back through the pasta machine. This pasta machine is a bit of a new one for me. I got it at Christmas time, so I love that it is black. But my cheaper machine that I used to have wasn't as clunky as this one. This one feels a little bit clunky, but I just love the look of this one. So I have the other one stored away in case I decide to go back to it. But yeah, the matte black look is really cool. And you can see the colour starting to form here as well. This is creating a really nice, I'm going to say sea foam, like a sea foam blue-green colour. Is it more blue, more green? I'm not really sure. But yeah, I'm going to call it sea foam. That's what I'm going to call it. Right, so cut my little sample there. I really should have taken these cards out of the packet before. It's causing me all sorts of issues every time I go to try and grab one. Okay, I'll put the name on it afterwards because I'm going to stick the sample up the top there for now. But I am going to call it sea foam because it definitely reminds me of that. Right, so the recipe is 4 of our white, in this case it was igloo, 4 Fiji and 1 latte. Okay, next up we need half a portion of canary. So this was why we needed to have a symmetrical shape so that we can cut it in half and it is equal. So obviously squares and circles work much better. This one's not too bad, but that's why I couldn't choose the cool llama at the beginning because I couldn't evenly portion that llama in half. Right, so the recipe for this one, a few more colours. We've got half a canary, we've got 4 mandarin, 1 white and 1 raspberry. These colours actually look awesome together as well. That's a really nice colour mix, those 4 colours together. So again, have to bank that idea. We'll use that another time. Let's start getting them through the pasta machine. We're going to turn this one into a beautiful coral orange colour. So when I create colours for these colour mixes, it's not usually because I'm trying to create a dupe for a colour that already exists. Usually I'm just creating new colours because I've got an idea of a colour palette that I want to work with and I don't have those colours handy. For this colour palette, I wanted to have a coral style colour, and Premo already make I'm pretty sure it's Premo, yeah. Premo already do a coral colour, but it's more of a pink blend rather than more of a pink tone rather than an orange tone. So I wanted more of the orange tone, which is why I've made it like this. I do have a block of coral here. That's the Premo coral, so you can see how it's more pink toned than the orange tone. I just really think that the orange tone is going to be better for our colour palette than that pinky toned one. So that's why I mixed a colour rather than just using one that was already existing. Okay, time to cut our little sample out. Oh, double card. Stick that on there. And I'll just write the recipe down for that one as well. So it's half a portion of canary, 4 portions of mandarin, 1 portion of white, and 1 portion of raspberry. Okay, we are on to our last colour now. So this one is 3 portions of white. Let's make sure it's in screenshot. It's got half a portion of raspberry and half a portion of latte. Now, as I've been mixing up these recipes, I'm realizing that it's probably not going to be enough color for me to use for my project. So I can always make up more. So if you're wanting your quantities to be a larger quantity than what I'm mixing up today, that is totally fine. The recipe I'm giving you is just a base recipe. So I could multiply that and have it as 6 white, 1 raspberry, 1 latte, and then keep multiplying. So then it could be 12 white, 2 raspberry, 2 latte. You get the point. So I've had people comment before that it's not enough clay to use, which, you know, sometimes it is, sometimes it's not, but it's just the base recipe, so you can always multiply it to make more. You could halve it even to make it less. It just becomes a little bit harder once you start with your halves and quarters and those different portions, but as long as you've got a symmetrical shape, it's not too bad to portion down either. So this one's mixing up quite quickly, actually. I think it's because there's not a lot of clay there. But it's this beautiful pinky colour, which is also why I needed that coral to be more of an orange tone than a pink, because we've got this beautiful pastel pink colour. Okay, so we'll just record down the recipe for that one as well. So it was 3 white, half raspberry, and half latte. Okay, so that is the last colour there. Hopefully you've found these colour recipes nice and simple, because I don't like to get too complicated. I don't think there's any need to get too complicated. We can still create really beautiful colours just with really basic recipes. So hopefully they are easy enough to follow, and hopefully you have the colours handy that you can reproduce these colours as well. So here are the final colours of today's recipes, and I'm really excited about using them. So please make sure you come back next week. I've got an idea in mind, and yeah, I think it's going to be a good one. So thank you for joining me today. I hope that you've enjoyed today's recipes and today's tutorial, and don't forget to like and subscribe so that you don't miss future tutorials. Thanks for joining me, and I'll see you next week. Bye!